Hi, thank you for joining me today for yet another live webinar. I have been doing a series of this on different health topics, and today's topic is on for children. Actually, I have personal experience. Those of you who know me, I have personal experience in this matter regarding my elder child's health issues, and which basically was managed only through healing from within and improving her gut health. They were very severe health issues, and but now they're completely gone. It's all under control, and she lives a pretty much normal life. So this is a subject that is very close to my heart, and I can see the change that has happened in the last, even as a parent, that has happened in the last say 5 to 10 years of the exponential increase in childhood chronic illnesses, whether it's eczema, whether it's allergies, whether it's asthma, whether it's ADHD, autism, you name it, all of them have exponentially increased. And it kind of seems that it has become our new normal. And many of us now sort of accept that many children will be born with a kind of dry skin or some rash here and there. But that's actually has not been the case for the history of mankind. It's only now that we're facing these kind of issues. So today we're going to explore a bit of why that is happening, what are the probable causes behind it, and the topic for today is your child's immune system at risk, because these are all uh, immune responses that are showing up as symptoms. So I will be covering the following today. How the new normal for children's health has become chronic illness, rising chronic inflammation in children leading to eczema, allergies, and asthma. There are other conditions as well, but these are some of the things that I sort of just briefly go through. Gut health and immunity, the role that our gut plays, the critical role that our gut plays in our immunity. Honoring the body's innate ability to heal. What are the ways that we can help our bodies to heal from within? It's extremely wise, and if only we basically pull out all the obstacles and put in what's needed, a lot of healing can take place. And how do you get started? And some resources in terms of books that you can go through later on. There will be also a handout that I will be giving out to those who have shared their email IDs, because that will contain a bit more on the resources in terms of articles, etc. as well, and for you to start working on your child's health. So does your child suffer from any of these? Whether it's allergies, whether it's recurrent headaches, whether it's eczema and rashes, stomach aches and pains, bloating, indigestion, constipation or diarrhea, acid reflux, fatigue, irritability, trouble gaining or losing weight, sleeping issues. So these by itself are not an issue, because we can suffer from them from time to time, especially something like a stomach ache. If you've eaten something which is not right for us, if there's some kind of infection, we can get a stomach ache and pain. There can be again indigestion happening from time to time. There can be constipation for some reason if we don't have enough fiber or water. There can be diarrhea again if we have some kind of stomach bug. Fatigue if we haven't slept well, if your child hasn't slept well. So there can be other reasons, but it's worrisome when it becomes a chronic and persistent problem. And no matter what anyone says, as a parent or as a mother or a father, you would know that this is not normal. I mean, a child, if ideally, and any person should be functioning optimally and feeling good, not suffering from some chronic issue or the other from time to time. So genetics alone, and a lot of it is put down to genetics, that, oh, my child has been born with, it runs in the family, allergies or asthma, etc. Of course, genes do play a role. Some children are more predisposed to some of these issues than others, but it doesn't alone explain and cause these kind of epidemics, which is now seen all over the world. That's the reason for using the term epidemic. It's not only in India, of course, it is happening across the world. So this is an excellent book which is in the resources at the behind at the end of this webinar. Dr. Kenneth Bock. The book is called Healing the New Childhood Epidemics, which is asthma, allergies, and autism. So this is the new normal for many chronic children, and so taking a puff, getting headaches from time to time, getting stomach aches. Eczema has become extremely common. I had heard of it for the first time in 2006. Once my daughter was diagnosed with eczema. I had never heard of it before that, not because it did not exist, but it was very rare and it did not run in for my family. So point is that it was not that common in any case. But now it has depression, in fact, in children and younger children. And a lot of it is related to gut health, and which is in terms, and in again, its connection with our immunity. And that's what we will explore today. So we need to keep in mind that eczema is not a steroid deficiency. So when we are told that we need to just keep up, applying topical steroids, of course, it is needed at times simply because, if the rash is so widespread and it's bad that we can't manage without it, and it gives immediate relief to the child or an adult, it is needed. And I have used it for my daughter as well. Medications are useful and life-saving. There's no doubt about it. But we need to also at the same time find out what is the reason behind this any kind of health issue, because what is the reason behind any kind of symptoms that is showing up, whether it's a dry skin or whether it's a brain related issue like ADHD. So ADHD again is not a stimulant deficiency. So it's not that we need to give a medication to rectify it. And constipation is, again, of course, we know is not a laxative deficiency. We are not constipated because we are not consuming enough of a laxative. It is some other reason entirely, and we need to find out. So these, and in terms of constipation, it's a huge problem. We don't realize it. That it's like the kitchen sink. I mean, when it's like the, you're pouring down, all kinds of stuff down your kitchen sink, etc. And then it gets clogged and it starts backing up into the house and it starts stinking up your kitchen. So that's what constipation does inside the body. It's a very critical part of the detoxification process. So we can't ignore it. So what are the major reasons and what are the major changes that have taken place in the last 10, 20, 30 years that have impacted our children, the immune system in particular? The first and foremost is poor gut health and a disconnect with nature. And in nature, in particular, with our old friends, the microbes. All this while, since the beginning of mankind, we have lived very closely with nature. It's only now that in the modern world, more and more are, the generations, the newer generations are completely disconnected with nature in terms of playing in the dirt, in the soil. One is because of the availability of such probably play areas and playgrounds, especially in many of the bigger cities in India. But also because of many other reasons. We use mostly shoes to play. We don't play barefoot anymore. We don't use our hands to play with the soil. A lot of things that we have grown up with, our children don't do anymore because we have been told to be scared of all germs, irrespective of whether they're pathogenic or not. So we've gone from one extreme to the other extreme. Neither extreme, of course, is necessary. It's something in between. And our microbes are our old friends. So we have simply lost touch with them. So our over-dependence on hand sanitizers or over-dependence on sanitizing soaps, which kill 99.9% of germs, etc., have caused a huge disruption in our gut health. And it's not only the pathogenic bacteria which have increased in our gut in proportion to the beneficial ones, it's also that we've lost some of the beneficial bacteria in succeeding generations. So both are a problem. Undernutrition, again, I think again in today's generation, our children, the poor food choices as well as nutrient depleted foods, both are a double whammy. Not only are they not eating the right foods and getting the right nutrients, they are also not making the right food choices in terms of the families not making the right food choices or having unprocessed wholesome foods. So both are an issue. Drastic increase in to environmental toxins and chemicals combined with poor detoxification capabilities. So both are again a double whammy. One is there's a huge increase in environmental toxins today that we are all exposed to, and our children's developing detoxification capabilities are pretty immature, and they cannot handle the amount that they are just merely exposed to. So with poor, and for many reasons, there again poor detoxification capabilities are also there in many children today, and both together are create a double whammy for them. So this is what I was mentioning, missing our old friends. So this was a hypothesis put forward by G.A.W. Rook. The current synthesis of the hygiene hypothesis suggests that the recent increase in chronic inflammatory disorders, which includes your eczema, asthma, allergies, etc., is at least partly attributable to immunodysregulation resulting from lack of exposure to microorganisms that have evolved an essential role in the establishment of the immune system. And we will see that these microorganisms play a huge role through the gut in our immune response. So this is something that I picked up. So it's we need to get back in touch with healthy microbes, and we need to find ways to incorporate it into our foods and into our lives. And especially, this is especially true for our kids. So what is healthy immunity? I mean, we all know what our immune system does, but what exactly is healthy immunity? So a person who has a healthy immune system identifies and responds appropriately to the threat level, because different levels of threat begets different levels of response. It's only when the response is more than what is required that we see issues with this immune dysregulation. Healthy immune system also repairs damage that takes place from injury or encounters with these kind of elements. So it should be able to, body should be able to also heal itself once the threat is over. The other thing that we need to know that also one of the main responsibilities and a way that you can make out whether the immune system is healthy in your child is when it shows tolerance. Because the primary job of the immune system is surveillance of what is happening, and it's surveilling constantly 24/7, never taking a break, and then not reacting either to self, which is our own tissues, microbial antigens, on food and environmental antigens. Because if there is, it's not a dysregulated immune system, it typically will not react unless there is a reason for it to do so. In fact, when it starts doing that, and especially in regards to self, body's own tissues, that's when you see the beginning of the autoimmune activation. So most immune response happens in the body without our awareness or knowledge. So symptoms are a body's distress signal asking for help. And most of the times what happens is that we simply disregard the symptoms, as minor irritants. So they are not irritants, they actually provide a clue about what is going wrong in your child's body. I mean, if they have a runny nose, is it a daily intolerance? If they have constipation or diarrhea, is it again something in some food that they're consuming which is not suiting them? If they have neurological issues, is it the gluten that they're consuming that is a problem? Do you need to do an elimination diet to uncover the hidden food sensitivities? Do you need to work on the pollution and the pollutants and the toxins in the house? Sometimes the house can be more, indoor air pollution can be higher than outdoor air pollution simply because of the products that we use. And I cover that briefly later on. So we need to figure out why is it that is the immune system is not healthy or reacting inappropriately. So usually the three main reasons for immune dysregulation is food, which is that we are not having the right foods. And in fact, we typically have something which Michael Pollan has mentioned as an edible food-like substance. So it looks like a toxin and it increases stress in the body. So what happens is that when your child is having a candy filled with colors, filled with additives, your child is having processed foods, a child is having a breakfast cereal, which is again bright and colorful and filled with preservatives, additives, flavoring, all of which are artificial, and they actually look toxins in many respects. You can almost imagine that the body is basically trying to figure out whether is it a threat or is it a friend. And that is how the immune system decides to act later on. Toxins, it depletes nutrients, increases stress, and impairs, again, and it also impairs detoxification, stress. Stress can be physiological, having the wrong foods, not having enough sleep, and it also can be mental and emotional. So again, it depletes nutrients, and then all of this put together, it basically impairs our immune system. And if you see the diagram below, you can make out that in between is where wellness, actually the balance and the tolerance is where the key to uh, healthy immune system is, because as we shift to the right, you have under reactive immune, you can also have underreactive immune system where it leads to dysbiosis and symptoms like IBS and fungus and always poor, all catching all kinds of cold and infection, that all the virus that seems to be going around, and leading to also chronic and severe infection that's in the kidneys or any part of the body, in the lungs, hepatitis, candida, so all kinds of stuff. And on the other hand, you have what we are seeing today in our children, which is an overreactive and hypersensitive immune system, which is leading to symptoms like allergy, atopy, eczema, asthma, etc. And then if it's not um, managed, then it can also lead to autoimmune activation eventually. So I don't know whether you're aware of this, but this is something that surprised me when I heard about it, that 70% of our entire immune system lies in our gut. And now that I know what I know, it is not that surprising anymore, but it was a big surprise and shock to me when I heard this. There's a reason for this. When we are, and this is the reason why when we are having the kind of processed foods, or when our children are having the kind of processed foods that they're having today, and it is coming down their food pipe and then their stomach and then from there to the intestine, where the most of the gut bacteria reside. So I have done a webinar on this disease begins in the gut, where I have discussed the gut microbiome and the gut flora, which consists of good and pathogenic and beneficial bacteria, yeasts, and other microbes, and play a critical role. It's actually present all over our body, everywhere, every nook and corner, but the majority is present in our, mostly in our large intestine, and the entire lining of the large and the small intestine is, which is where our immune system resides. 70% of our immune system resides. So you can also imagine, you can almost imagine when your child is having a food which is not natural or healthy or wholesome, it is artificially processed. The immune cells, the white blood cells, etc., looking up and thinking, what the hell is this? I mean, is it really food, or is it a toxin, or is it, what is it? Is it an allergen? I can't really figure out. Should we wait and watch, or should we just mount an immune response? And that's what actually it ends up doing. It's just trying to protect the body and doing its job. So it mounts an immune response and secretes inflammatory chemicals, which eventually lead to inflammation and the symptoms that we see downstream. So we know that if our gut lining and the gut is damaged, we are less protected from toxins, foreign invaders, pathogenic microbes. And what happens in the gut affects the rest of the body, and it ultimately leads to inflammation. So it may or may not show up in your child as gastric symptoms or digestive issues. It can show up in any part of the body. It can show up in as eczema. It can show up as allergies without any digestive symptoms. And that was the case in my daughter. With my daughter, there was no digestive symptoms whatsoever. It was only the skin symptom that her body was showing. So it doesn't, you can't always link it to the gut. But I mean, this is the reason that we are doing this webinar, so that you know how it is linked actually. A balanced and healthy gut flora helps to keep the immune system calm and not become overreactive. I've already mentioned that. So inflammation then in that case is a sign of a loss of tolerance by the immune system. And that is the key, because one of the primary roles, as I mentioned earlier, of the immune system is of tolerance, to survey what is happening, surveillance, and then not react to everything. In fact, that is the starting of allergies, when it starts reacting to anything and every substance, chemical, food that comes around. So inflammation can actually become harmful if chronic or inappropriate. So inflammation begins in the gut many times. Most of the times, actually, it's true. And some of the things that are play here are dysbiosis, which is the poor gut health, which I mentioned, preponderance of pathogenic bacteria over beneficial bacteria, not having enough of the old friends that our body has been used to, which has been dwindling over generations. Exposure to foods or edible food-like substances. This is especially true for our children who are consuming a lot more junk food than we or processed foods that we have ever done while growing up. And that's showing up in many of these health issues. Toxins, of course, again, another thing which has really increased with our children. It increased as far as our children's exposure is concerned than when we were growing up, whether it's environmental toxins, whether it's toxins at home, in the products that we use, in the products that our children use. So it's everywhere, basically. Leaky gut or intestinal permeability, once again, I have covered it in my earlier previous webinars. Disease begins in the gut. You can go through that. It's on my Facebook page, Nourish Heal Connect. And it's also will be on my website, anindita.runta.com. Pathogenic microbes, I have been mentioned. So at the end of the day, so eczema, allergies, and asthma are then all conditions resulting from chronic inflammatory process which has been going on in the body. It's only when it becomes chronic and inappropriate that inflammation is a problem. Otherwise, acute inflammation is life-saving. So I want to sort of just separate the two. So the conditions resulting from chronic inflammatory process, which begins with an inflammatory immune response by an overwrought and confused immune system who doesn't know what to think of it, whether the toxins are concerned, whether the edible food-like substances are concerned, whether they are pathogenic microbes. And in fact, one of the role of these microbes or the gut bacteria is to train our immune system for an appropriate immune response. And that's when we have dysbiosis, that training goes awry. So that's the key there. So Dr. Alessio Fasano is one of the leaders in the role of celiac and non-celiac, in the field of celiac and non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And he has said that the gut is not like Las Vegas. What happens in the gut does not stay in the gut. And that's the reason when I mentioned that a lot of children may or may not have digestive symptoms as such, but the symptoms can show and do show elsewhere as other seemingly unrelated conditions. So whether it's ADHD, whether it's autism, whether it's eczema, there is some connection to gut health there. May not be the only reason, of course. Usually it's multifactorial, but one of the attributable factors will be poor gut health, and which leads to an immune dysregulation in the body. So this is a slide from the course that I'm doing currently from the School of Applied Functional Medicine, where I get into more in-depth knowledge, more clinical knowledge on these topics. And I use the slide because it really explains very clearly where does disease begins. Disease can be thought to be dis-ease, and then it finally becomes a proper condition, diagnosable condition. It usually starts with deficiency, either and which can show up because of digestion or absorption issues or both. And it can show up as anemia or depression or headache or some of the smaller symptoms or the minor irritants that we get from time to time. It can then lead to gastrointestinal disease, which is IBS, constipation, bloating, belching, and it may not always show up in all children or people. And then it basically can move on to chronic inflammation, which is gut inflammation, and leading along with enhanced gut permeability, which is usually a key factor in this. So asthma, eczema, allergy, chronic fatigue, etc. So a lot of conditions are linked to intestinal permeability and the chronic inflammation in the gut itself. And then the activation of autoimmune disease, which is complete immune dysregulation, which is Hashimoto's, which is lupus, with this Graves' disease, this rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis also has been linked to this. So this is the usual process and the progress of disease. So if we can intervene at the beginning stages with our children, we don't need to go down this path. And many children are at the first stage. It's simple deficiency. So if we address that, well, that's good enough. And that basically boosts up the immunity. So what does it mean to heal from within? I love this quote from Maya Shetreat, Dr. Maya Shetreat. I have been given her book as a resource. Later on, I love this book as well. I recommend that you go through the book to get a more detailed sense of what I'm talking about today. When a child's body is depleted and improperly nourished, it cannot heal. So that is the basic starting point for you. So we start with the microbiome and the gut. So diet, gut, and nutrition go hand in hand. So we need to, if as a mother you're pregnant or breastfeeding, you need to eat for the microbiome of your baby, of course your own, and then in turn your baby. So which means probiotics and fermented foods, having the right foods, not having the foods which are inflammatory in nature. Maybe dairy is a problem, maybe wheat, maybe not, but having more vegetables, focusing on more vegetables, fruits, and fermented foods for that matter. And if you have a child who has these issues, or even if they're healthy, I think it's a good habit to inculcate addition of fermented foods as well as probiotics if required. But definitely fermented foods like the dahi that we have, yogurt. It can be other things, even other simple things like pickles, naturally fermented pickles, not with added vinegar that we get in the market, and sauerkraut, which can be made at home. It's simple to make, so you have various options. Conscious use of antibiotics and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen. These are basically enhanced gut permeability, so to be used cautiously and when required. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, medicines are important and life-saving, but we need to be conscious as to how we are using them. Uncover hidden food sensitivities, because many children who show these kind of symptoms typically have some underlying food sensitivities which are different from food allergies. I have written about it also on my website. You can check it out. It's ananditarunta.com. And so food sensitivities typically can be found out through kind of process of elimination for a period of time, and then we introducing those foods. And the typical triggers inflammatory foods for children with these kind of issues are dairy and gluten. And if there's a way to find out, tests are not 100% accurate. This is what I do with my clients, whether it's a child or an adult in my coaching practice. So for those of you who are interested in getting in touch with me, my coordinates are towards the end of this presentation. So nutrition, of course, is the first part of this, which is unprocessed, wholesome foods. Keep our sugar and artificial ingredients out of the diet, or if not completely, then at least to a minimum. I mean, I know children are now hooked on to all kinds of processed foods, and these foods are made in such a way that they are inherently addictive. So we cannot really blame them. But so then we need to be that much more conscious and make good food choices so that our children are not chronically ill. So keep the sugar, keep artificial flavorings, additives, colors to a minimum, and wherever possible, avoid. Ensure that your kids eat a rainbow every day. That means all the colors of the rainbow as in terms of fruits and vegetables. If not every day, of course, just be conscious of that they're having different colors every day, so that they have the maximum variety which is possible, the colors, because the phytonutrients which contribute to these colors are key to boosting immunity. They also are made by plants as a part of the immune response. And when we consume them, that boosts our immunity as well. And antioxidants, again, naturally occurring in plants and fruits and on plants, which enhance detoxification. The foods which are high in vitamin A, vitamin C, zinc, and vitamin D actually boost immunity. You can always find out. There are a lot of resources online. Food is always the preferred source of nutrients. I do use supplements in my practice, in my coaching practice, but that is always an add-on. The first and foremost preferred step is to focus on the real foods. And then, when required, and many children who are suffering chronically and are so depleted that only food is not enough, I do add supplements for a short while. But it's not a substitute. Supporting detoxification, again, a very important aspect of boosting immunity in children. Minimize environmental toxins, which means that use natural household cleaners, use natural non-toxic laundry, use personal care products, toys made from natural materials. Wherever possible, use natural and non-toxic products. Again, I have written about them earlier, and I will be, in fact, doing a webinar next month in March, mid-March, on this topic, toxins. not only relating to children, but to everyone. I mean, everyone is affected whether we realize it or not. It's like the elephant in the room, which is very much there, but nobody is able to see it because it's sort of invisible. So I will be doing a webinar on this, and those of you who have provided your email IDs and have registered for this particular webinar will be getting the intimation at an appropriate time. So use a HEPA air filter at home. That really helps, especially for asthma and wheezing, for children who have asthma and wheezing, but even for those who have allergies, because they're typically allergies, and even eczema, because they all go hand in hand, and dust mites and smoke and the construction particles which are in the air, especially where I am, Bombay. There are a lot of construction going on everywhere, but I think it's the same problem. And of course, the benzene from the diesel fumes and etc. from the cars and the vehicles. I think every child in every city and every person in every major city is affected. So whatever that we can support, whatever way that we can support our body's natural detoxification capabilities will only help. Choose organic wherever possible. That's something that I really believe in. It may not be possible to do it 100% in terms of foods, especially foods and things that we're ingesting. I switched to organic about 5 years back when my daughter was severely ill, and I have not looked back since. I think it's one of the best investments I have ever made. But I know and I realize that it's not possible for everyone for many reasons, financial or otherwise, to completely switch. So wherever possible, do opt for organic, especially where foods are concerned. And I will again be covering this in my webinar next month on toxins. Focus on dark green leafy vegetables, including cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. These are these three that I mentioned, Brussels sprouts, but these three are extremely critical for enhancing and boosting our body's detoxification capabilities. Even spinach, methi, I mean, any of the dark leafy greens. So what I typically do is I ensure that we are having one of these vegetables almost on a daily basis. I mean, I try and ensure in whatever form, whether it's in a soup form, whether it's in a smoothie, whether it's in a vegetable or bhaji, it doesn't really matter, or a salad. It doesn't matter what form. It matters that you have it, and try and give it to your child almost every day. Berries and pomegranates, again, filled with phytonutrients, fiber, which also helps in removing in the detoxification process, and not promoting constipation, but proper stool movement, bowel movement, probiotics, turmeric, which again, it's an inherent part of our Indian cooking. So so that's something that is good. I mean, some of the thing that we've been doing traditionally, now we know why they are actually so important to continue with. Herbs like rosemary and coriander, and even garlic and onions. So as you can see, in the end, healing is not actually that complicated. It might be difficult for some people, depending on the severity of the issues. It took my daughter almost 2 years to reach where she went off all her medications. She was on systemic drugs for 5 long years, but she went off all medications after 2 years of starting her on the functional medicine protocol. And this is what I do in my own practice now. So it does take time. It takes a lot of effort and commitment, but it is typically not that complicated. So what we need to do are 3 things, which is maximize what your child's body needs, whether it's water, whether it's proper nutrition like protein and healthy fats, antioxidants, and also the belief. I mean, you need to have the belief, and you need to instill that belief in the child that the body can heal itself. I find that many people, including myself, had forgotten and given away that power to take the responsibility of our own healing process. And then when we do that, we become very vulnerable to outside forces, and we we stop believing that we can get better. So that's a key part, I think, in the healing process. Minimize what is harmful for your child. You will know what is, you would know as a parent, as a mother. You trust your instinct. You will know when your child is well, of course, and you know what is not suiting your child more than any doctor, any other person in this world. So toxins, infections, allergens, stress, negative beliefs, again, fear, whatever that might be, provide that for your child, and minimize that for your child in whatever way possible. That has to be, of course, customized for each individual. And last but not the least, prioritize. and create a healing environment for your child, whether it's through sleep, whether it's through rest, whether it's through fun activities, whether it's through laughter, exercise, close family ties, spending a lot of time with the family together, doing things as a family. Again, extremely important part of the healing process. Sometimes we start working with the foods and the supplements and everything and get stuck there itself. But that's not a complete solution for a person's healing. And all three are equally important. So some of the resources that are there, that are here, I highly recommend, especially the first two books, which is a Healing the New Childhood Epidemics. The first book deals with eczema, allergies, asthma, and ADHD. The second book, again, is a very overall, again, picture of dealing with allergies and the immune, again, the same thing that we discussed today, the immune response of children today, healthy food, healthy gut, and happy child. If you want to know more about the environmental toxins, then the role the nature plays in a child immune system regulation, you can read the books on children and environmental toxins and Last Child in the Woods. Another book on allergies is Allergy Solution. And of course, my book on eczema, which is I Have Eczema, So What? And that this book is more on how to live with eczema. It's not more as so much as a solution. It's more as, of course, these are the things that you can do, foods, etc. But how do you, this is written so that a child can understand that this is not the end of the world. And how can you sort of, as a family, as a parent, support your child in the entire journey. It's tough. I mean, I have personally faced it with my daughter's health issues, and it's tough living, going from one day to another, let alone years. So this book deals more on that front and helps the child to understand, okay, this is my love's, family's love and support can see me through this process. It's available on Amazon and Flipkart. So at the end, I would like to mention briefly about what I do as a health coach. I help my clients embrace food as medicine, I help them, empower them to make sustainable lifestyle changes. Functional medicine is a medicine of treating the root cause of any kind of chronic issues, and I deal with all kind of chronic issues right now, primarily with autoimmune conditions. And it's my experience and my training both are what I bring to the table. So I work with people, including children, through using the tools of health coaching. That's what enables them to make the changes that can be very difficult to make at times, and also to guide them as to what are the things that you need to do in the first place. So whether it's the food, whether it's the lifestyle, whether it's the sleep, whether it's the stress management, etc. So everything together is what is part of the healing process. So functional medicine health coaching blends the principles of functional medicine along with that of health coaching. So functional medicine, as I mentioned, is the science of evidence-based medicine, which deals with treating the root cause of any chronic condition and finding out what is it that has gone wrong and what now that we need to do about it. Whereas health coaching focuses more on how. How do you get better sleep? How do you manage your stress? How do you make these changes, which can be very daunting at times. So when you blend them together, that is what functional medicine health coaching is all about. And the rest you can read. I have my practice in Bombay, and I also do online practice. So you can feel free to reach out to me. These are my coordinates. So this is my email address, and you can just go through that. And my Facebook page. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope that you found this to be a useful session. And if you have any comments, please feel free to drop an email on my Facebook page, which is Nourish Heal Connect, or drop me an email at anindita@aninditaroonta.com. I will be sending you a handout on some resources, some further resources, which can help you to get started on healing your child from within. So thank you till we meet again. Bye.